Run it up, run it back.
Oh, good morning. Look at that. All black across the board. We have a special kind of chemistry that you just can't buy these days in the media landscape. Good morning and welcome.
Birthdays, Beadle, it's the birthdays.
Oh, it's right. This is for people who don't know. This is a trio of Scorpios, which explains a lot. We have all of our birthdays this week in the next 6 days, which I think is a pretty special thing. And we're all in New York City right now. You guys, did you get into trouble? I mean, you're here, so I suppose the trouble was not that bad.
Last night was fine. Tonight might be a little slippery. We'll see.
Interesting. Lou's just
opening
smiling.
night.
Like
It's opening night.
I'm always on my best behavior, Beads.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Did you find your oxtail and fitted caps?
I got a lot of suggestions. Thanks. Shout out to New York City and all of my friends out here. I got a lot of suggestions. So I got some downtime today. I'm going to go out and explore, see what's happening.
Okay, good. Good. I don't want you to waste your time in this big, beautiful city. Guys, it is opening night. We've got 2 big games tonight. The champs will raise a banner and the Lakers will take to the floor, and a lot of anticipation. Will we see Bronny and LeBron? Now, here's the thing. Bronny said he doesn't know, obviously doesn't know if he's going to get any playing time. But the interesting thing is that both Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. will be in attendance. Do you think we actually see this experiment come to life on the floor tonight, Chandler?
I do. And I think that's the smart thing to do for the rest of the season, just kind of address this elephant in the room. And I think obviously it's got to be some sort of a close game. If it's a blowout, if it's get the games out of hand early, I think either way you can try to find a place to put him in. Now, during preseason, JJ kind of played him in the beginning of that second quarter. So I think that would be the ideal spot for him. But I think just to end all this anticipation, and it's not like you're starting him. It's not like you have to play him at the end of the game. Play him spot minutes and see what happens. And I think just to relieve all the pressure, not even just from the media and from the fans and all the hoopla that comes with this, but the pressure for the kid, the pressure for Bronny James to get that out of the way, make history, play with your dad, which is really cool. And the fact that Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. are going to be there, it's awesome. You can't not play him with the once I heard Griffey's were going there, I was like, okay. He's got to play. He's got to play, or it's just rude. So I think this would kind of set the tone for their season, just to eliminate any of this circus that's going to follow them till he plays. Just end it tonight and get it over with.
But what if it's a close game? Like,
play him early. Play him early.
It'll be the end of the first quarter, or it'll be the top of the second quarter. You know, you give them a chance to play, those 3-4 minutes until you bring back the starting guard or whatever. But like Chandler said, tonight is the night. You don't want this thing to linger on. Like, let's say we go 20 games in and he's yet to play with LeBron. Then you continue on the media circus of when will it happen? When will it happen? And it's too many what ifs. What if LeBron James rolls an ankle? What if he has something, God willing, knock on wood, and he goes out? And now you never have that. Now you never have the opportunity to show that moment, to have the fans see that, and have both of those guys have that experience together. Tonight is going to be the best opportunity for them to do that. I think they should. It is super cool. It should be something to be celebrated. You know how we are in the media. We're going to find something to criticize. But every father in the world out there, take your personal opinions out of it. Think about what you would do if you were in this scenario. This should be something that's celebrated. This should be something that we look at as cool and mind-blowing. And it's another notch on the belt of LeBron James and the things that he's been able to accomplish in the league. So, shout out to him and Bronny. I look forward to seeing that tonight.
Can I play devil's advocate for 1 second? Let's say it's a close game. I mean, these games now matter. So let's just say this is a close game, that it's a moment, because JJ Redick is also, for the first time out there, having to prove who he is as an NBA coach. And he puts him in, and it's an absolute disaster. Like, you're starting the season off, JJ is, with that kind of heat.
Well, Beadle, they're not going to go on a 10-0 run in 3 seconds because of Bronny James. They could, and listen, it's going to be 4 other pros on the court, and also it's still going to be LeBron James on the basketball court.
Fair.
He's still going to be there. So I don't see disaster striking here. It hadn't struck in the preseason. We hadn't seen it happen when he's on the floor in the preseason. It's like I said, it's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of different variables. Again, this is something to be celebrated. It'll be okay. Let's get this party started. Let's get it over with, and let's start the season.
And I do think, I think the earlier the better for for both parties, for the team, for the other players on the roster, for LeBron, for Bronny, for the media, for everybody. Like Lou said, it's not like you're going to plug this kid in and they're going to go bonkers and go on a 12-0 run. If they do call a timeout and get him out and then still move on from there, like it's not that big of a deal to throw him in there early. Now, if you wait and it's a close game and then you don't, then again, then the circus is going to continue to follow you. And then there are going to be questions. When is it going to happen? The earlier, the better. Get it over with, pull the Band-Aid off. And who knows, maybe he shocks everybody and contributes and has some value.
3 minutes, Chandler.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
you know how it goes.
Yeah, he's going to be a little stiff, but his preseason wasn't awesome, but he showed some flashes, but he didn't shoot the ball well. But again, play him for 2-3 minutes, see what happens. Who knows? Maybe he surprises everybody. Maybe he plays good. Maybe he can find another stint later in the game, but get it done early, please.
I mean, his last game in the preseason wasn't bad. It's just funny to think that there's like a mandate somewhere in the organization where they're like, whatever you do, you just got to get him in for a few minutes tonight so we can get this roller coaster started, which is funny to even think about because, again, real game. And there have been a whole bunch of you know how this time of season is, top 100 player rankings. They exist all over the place. And right now, LeBron's still ahead of Anthony Edwards on basically all of them. But I ask you this, Lou, are we looking possibly at the season in which Anthony Edwards becomes that guy and passes LeBron on these lists?
To me, that's an interesting question, right, Beadle? Like as far as what? Points, win totals, what are we? I'm curious to know, what are we talking about? Bron is grandfathered in at this point. You don't compare up and coming artists to Jay-Z. You just don't do it. There's so much work that's been put in. There's so many things that's been accomplished over 2 decades worth of work. And we can even go back to high school. This is a 25-year run we're looking at. So is Ant-Man one of the new young up and coming guys in the league? Absolutely. But you just don't compare him to somebody who's been in the league 20 plus years, a champion in 3 different places, the league's leader scorer. You don't compare him to that. You give him an opportunity to pave his own way and create his own lane. The amount of work that LeBron's been able to put in is uncomparable to anybody that's left in the league at this point, especially one of our young guns and our up and coming guys. So in what way does he become better than LeBron? In a single season? Sure, but nobody challenged Michael Jordan when he was on the Wizards. You know what I'm saying? At that point in his career, he was grandfathered in as the best player in the world. So that's still how I look at LeBron James. I look at Ant-Man as one of the next up-and-coming young stars. But in what scenario does he becomes better than LeBron James this year?
Yeah, and it's a fun debate. But what do we do? Is it for one game? Are these rankings for the full season? Obviously, for the future, anybody in their right mind is going to go with Anthony Edwards. For one game, who am I going to take? I'm probably still going to take LeBron James. So again, it's an interesting debate. And like Lou just said, it's silly to compare someone that's so up and coming and such a potential star for the next 10 years and somebody that's playing, into his 40s. It's a fun debate, but it doesn't really make sense. But again, one game, season, whatever, they're both fantastic talents. But for a season, I'm taking Anthony Edwards. And obviously for the future, I'm taking Anthony Edwards. For one game tonight, sure. In the playoffs, I'm probably taking LeBron still, but it's a moot point. Like it's a silly argument.
By the way, shout out to all the folks that have it in them to put these player 100. I don't have the attention span to do a list of 100 players.
Also, not having Kawhi and James Harden in the top 50 I saw and stuff. It's I get it. They're aging. I get it. They're hurt, but stop it. You mean to tell me Kawhi Leonard's not a top 50 player in the NBA? Enough.
Is it
top 50 now? Huh.
I don't care if it's top 50 now or top 50 for the future. Kawhi Leonard's in the top 50. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's inconsistent. You don't have James Harden in there because of age, but then we're having the debate if LeBron James is better than that. It's inconsistent. And I just don't have the patience or the gall to sit down and try to take 100 different people. I don't have
the gall.
Will saying the word gall was not on the board today.
No, I'm gonna
I love it. That's unbelievable.
Well, that got me. That got me all messed up. Okay, let's talk Julius. By the way, like a lot of the Bronny talk, I get it, but there are some stars on the other side of this thing, and there were some big moves made. And Julius Randle has switched states and cities and teams, and we just don't really talk much about it. So I ask you, Chandler, in your estimation, how will he fit in with this Minnesota squad?
I think it's going to take time, and I am excited for Julius. This is a fresh start in a fresh city with a great, great supporting cast, a budding star, and actually not even a budding star, an absolute star already, and Anthony Edwards. So again, when you look at this on paper, I do worry about the spacing. Julius Randle is kind of an off-the-block, mid-range, post-up, aggressive, play bully ball, and Karl Anthony Towns was a space-the-floor, pick-and-pop guy to kind of give their ISO star Anthony Edwards more room to work. How is Julius going to play off Rudy Gobert without being able to space the floor as much as Towns? So there are some questions with how this offense is going to flow, how the spacing is going to work, but Julius Randle's a dog, and then he had a great stint in New York, and for whatever happened, and for him and getting a little bit of these tiffs with the fans and the media, and him moving on, I feel like almost is a good thing. I think his time kind of ran its course in New York, and but when you look back on it, I think he had an unbelievable time in New York. I think he kind of put his name on those multiple All-Stars, and now he's going to a team in another conference where he doesn't have to worry about competing and going through the Knicks in the playoffs. And he's on a really, really good team with a really, really good team coach with Chris Finch, who's offensive, defensive minded, and they're going to figure out a way to get the most out of him on the offensive end. So I'm excited for him. I think it might be a little bit of time. I don't think you can just throw him out there in that system and it looked perfect right away. It took time in Phoenix, takes time in all these other players with these great offensive players, but I think long term, I think they're going to be just fine. I think he's going to be extremely happy there. In a new market too. He's not going to get crucified every bad game on the Minnesota Timberwolves like he did on the New York Knicks. So it's a whole different animal that he's dealing with, and I think that favors Julius Randle.
That is crazy to think about, just the sort of off the court vibes of a new, completely different, fresh market.
He can play like shit. He can play like shit. We're not going to talk about it the next day. And if he did it at New York, we're going to criticize him heavily.
Yep, that's how it goes. There's another game, the big game. The Celtics-Knicks game is also happening, and Celtics are already favorites, obviously, Lou, as we go into this thing as the defending champs. Are we looking, in your mind, at a potential situation here where we could have the beginning of maybe a little dynasty?
Yeah, this is going to be fun. You know, we've talked all off season about Jason Tatum being upset with the Olympics, Jaylen Brown feeling like he's being overlooked, and all of these things. All of these different storylines, they finally get to put it to the test. They finally get to go out there on the court and prove themselves as the defending champions. You know, I look forward to it. It's a completely different hat that they're wearing this year as far as last year. You know, they're going into this season as the favorites, right? Nobody's doubting them. Nobody's questioning them. There are some teams that are going to be contenders. That's going to come up in conversations, but they're clearly going into this season as the best team in the league. That's going to be the team that everybody is going to chase. So I'm just a little worried. At first, we were talking about them being upset. Now that the preseason rankings have came out and everybody has them as the favorites, I wonder if that messes with their psyche a little bit and they kind of take their foot off the gas. So I'm interested to see what happens.
Yeah.
I do.
And the Celtics, again, they're obviously built to win now. They won last year, and they ran through the league last year. And again, like Lou said, they are going to have a target on their back. They are going to get everybody's best shot this season. And guys know their role. They defend. They do it on both ends. They're basically bringing the exact same team back. So to talk about a dynasty, I think we got to pump the brakes a little bit. They just got over that hump last year, and they dominated in a big way. Now, can they do it again? Can they do it again and again and again? And that's how we get that word dynasty. At the end of the day, they've won one championship with this core group. So I do think they're the best team. I think they're the most talented team. There's a reason they are the favorite to win it. But can they develop these young guys? There's guys like Jaden Springer. There's guys like Jordan Walsh that no one's even heard of or no one's talked about. Can they develop those guys into that 7th, 8th man to help the Hausers and the Pritchards and things like that when guys go down? How serious is Porzingis' injuries? There's always going to be questions about this team, but yeah, they're primed to do it again. And once they do it again, then I think we can start talking dynasty.
Chandler,
by the way, when you
those young guys you just mentioned,
that's what
exactly. That's my point.
Deep for those guys.
You were.
But isn't that funny? With like, there's these young prospects that no one even talks about because they only go 6, 7 deep, and Hauser and Pritchard have only been their bench guys. It's crazy, but those are the guys that when injuries happen, 1 or 2 injuries, those are the guys that are going to need to play well for them, and no one knows who they are.
Do you know how great TNT is that when you said those 2 names, they're live today all night from Boston. And when you said those names, I was like, oh, this will be great. There's already the first segment's done for Barkley.
Start giving those kids some love.
This is going to happen. All right. It is the opening night. And that means the Joe Mazzulla quote train can officially get off the tracks. And he's kicking things off in a beautiful way. Right off the bat, asked about the pressure he might feel to, maximize this opportunity. Here's Joe Mazzulla.
Zero, no pressure. We're all going to be dead soon, and it really doesn't matter anymore, so there's 0 pressure. You're either going to win or you're not. And when you win, you try to forget about it a week later, and when you lose, you try to forget about it a week later. And so it's not pressure, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
He's my favorite now. We are all going to be dead soon. I say it all the time. Didn't hear anybody else saying it, though. What do we think? What do you mean? We are going to be dead soon. What's wrong with that?
But there's pressure. Now, whether you acknowledge it or not, it's there, right? It's a big difference in doing the hunting like they were doing last year and being hunted like they're going to be this year. That's a different responsibility than they've had from last season to this season. Now you're the measuring stick, right? You're the team that everybody wants to beat. Before that, it was the Denver Nuggets. So from the contenders to the pretenders, everybody's going to come to Boston, and they're going to want to know where are they on the depth chart of the good basketball teams in the league, and you're that team that they're going to want to beat. So, and that's going to be a challenge for you night in and night out. So whether you acknowledge the pressure or not, it's definitely there. So I'm calling Cat.
Yeah.
But as a coach, he said what he was supposed to say.
Listen, I like the message that he's sending to the team. Listen, we know there's a target on our back. We know we're trying to do it again, but like Lou said, there is pressure. There's pressure on a franchise like the Celtics every single year, let alone when you're going into the season as the best team and as the favorite. So 1,000% there's pressure. There's pressure on the Chiefs this year. Can they do it again? There's pressure on the Dodgers and the Yankees every single year. There's pressure on the Boston Celtics, especially when you just came off a dominating year. You're the champs. You're on top of the world. There's pressure to do it again, and that's how the players are going to be judged this year. Can they respond? Can they be poised? Can they be mature? There's still a lot of questions out there about this team, but there's definitely pressure when you're the best team going into the season.
He just has a way with word. Like, I went from thinking, man, this dude's nuts, to he's growing on me, and I like the way he puts it. But
he's a quirky dude.
He's a very quirky dude. End of days.
There's no pressure. Go on a 5-game losing streak and see what happens.
Well,
there's
you know what?
Pressure.
I'm glad you mentioning the pressure, because like Jason Tatum is part of who got a lot of the pressure, and now he's got that ring. They've had their parade, and I'm wondering, Lou, does that pressure get worse, better, same? Do you think the critics are going to be out as bad as they were for him last season?
Oh, the critics are going to be out. It's gonna be a field day. The storylines are already there. They've already written themselves. The critics are gonna be there. Luckily for them, they've experienced this throughout the year last year. So now at this point, when you're the champion, it turns into you trying to prove somebody wrong to they're gonna have to learn a way to just X that out, let everybody talk, let everybody do what they're gonna do. But other than that, just go out and play basketball, man. Like I said, I look forward to seeing this Boston Celtics team, how they respond to the criticism. Lucky for them, it feels like they have 2 superstar guys and their personalities who's responded well to these things throughout the course of their careers. And now that they're champions, I think they wear that hat proudly and they go out and prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, and they're the best 2 players on the team. Of course, there's pressure on those 2 for sure. And everything they both went through, who's the best player, who got snubbed from the Olympic team, who didn't play for the Olympic team. They're both making a shit ton of money. They're both the franchise pieces of this team. They both have a lot of pressure going forward. They're the best players on the best team. Can they do it again? And we'll see.
Yeah, criticism never dies. On the other side of this thing, we got the New York Knicks. We mentioned the fact that Julius Randle finds himself in a friendlier, probably, place. Cat finds himself now in New York City. And we all know the criticisms of Karl Anthony Towns over the course of the years. Chandler, it's hard here sometimes. They're tough. Do you think he's got the mental fortitude for what this thing's going to be?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know him well enough to sit here and say he doesn't. I know if he plays well there, look no further than last year, how Jalen Brunson gets treated, how Jalen Brunson is looked at on this Knick. They're talking about Jalen Brunson being the greatest Knick of all time after just such a short stint of what he'd done, just because he's brought that excitement back. He is a humble star. He is low maintenance. That is what Cat needs to go there. He needs to bring his hard hat, play. Obviously, staying healthy is a huge key here. But yeah, there's expectations here now, though. It's the New York media, it's the New York Knicks, and now you have a roster that is ready to contend for a championship right now, and you're a huge addition to that. So you have to have thick skin. Like we just talked about Julius Randle, he has less pressure now in Minnesota. It's the opposite for Karl-Anthony Towns. He's now going to this mega market where they are going to nitpick. They are going to try and tear him down and pull him apart when they lose and when he plays bad. And they're going to build him up to the greatest thing since sliced bread when he plays good. So I hope he can figure it out. I hope they're winning. I love the NBA when the Knicks are good and the Knicks fans are rowdy. I love when MSG is rocking. So I think the NBA is in a better place when they have a product that they have this year. And a lot of that's going to fall on Towns. So I hope he can overcome it. But yeah, it's a whole nother monster he's dealing with, going from Minnesota market to New York market.
I'm
Why are you
laughing?
laughing?
I'm laughing because you gotta love New York Knicks fans, right? When the trade first happened, one of the first things I seen on Instagram and X was the New York Knicks fans telling Cat, "All right, don't come here being a bitch." All right.
I saw that. It made me laugh.
That was one of the first things that I saw, and it made me laugh out loud because that's the personality of this city. They respect his talent, but you have to have thick skin to play New York City brand basketball. And I think Cat, he's going to do a great job. I think he's going to become a fan favorite. I think he's going to rally these crowds. And you can kind of compare it to like wrestling, right? It feels like Cat is going to have to turn heel to be loved in New York City. He's going to have to go heel. He's going to have to go dark. He's going to have to be meaner. He's going to have to talk more trash. And I think it's going to work for him in the long run. So, man, what an exciting season. There's going to be a lot going on.
I'm stoked. To say I'm stoked is really just an understatement. There were a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on yesterday. Money was being made in the extension world. So we're going to tackle that right now. We'll go to Houston first. They had two big questions right there and answered both of them. The deadline was Monday, and here we go. So we'll start with SENGUN. He signed the biggest extension, 5 years, 185 player option. What do you think, Lou? It's a good one.
Yeah, Houston did a good job by locking in their young stars, right? They've committed for their future. They feel like these are the two guys that's going to get them over the board and be a competitive team out there in the West. The next challenge is going to be making sure these guys can play well together instead of one or the other, how they've done in the past with injuries and whatnot. So shout out to those guys. That's a ton of money. This is the first time in my life when I saw these extensions where I said, I think I understand the older players having a problem with the younger players. I was like, this is the first time that thought crossed my mind. But shout out to all these young guys. That is life-changing money, family-changing money. That is generational wealth. The Houston Rockets, they locked in their two young stars. Hopefully that money turns into a lot of wins down there in Houston.
Yeah, and listen, SENGUN, he's a stud. We say it all the time. He's the closest thing we have to Jokic, and not the average fan might not know who he is. That's crazy. And he just got $185 million in Texas, tax-free, straight to the bank. So he, you know what? But he deserves this. He's a great player. He showed flashes last year of absolute brilliance. He's a guy that it doesn't matter who they sign in the future. He can play with anybody. He's unselfish. You can play through him. You can play around him. He is an absolute star. And to lock him up for 5 years, and on the flip side, Jalen Green for 3 years, it kind of shows you where the Rockets are at with who they know for certain about and who they don't. I'm happy for both of them, but SENGUN, 5 year, 185, that's awesome. Congrats.
I'm glad you mentioned Jalen Green. Yeah, he did do the 3 year 106 player option in the 3rd year. He is the first player to negotiate a 2+1 rookie extension. And, Chandler, how do you feel about this move? Smart move. He's eligible, what, 2 years
Yeah.
for an extension?
Yeah, I think it's
All
smart.
right.
First ever 2-for-1. I think it kind of gives the player that flexibility and that freedom where he can also walk and have that player option in that third year if he's not feeling it. If him and Sengun don't play as good as they could possibly play and they don't pan out, he does have that option. Now, I'm sure he had a longer deal option with not as much money, but he wanted to feel it out. And I think this kind of shows where the Rockets stand. They're certain on Sengun. Sengun is their guy, the 5-year deal. They want Jalen Green to be there with them, kind of transform into this dynamic duo. But I think this gives kind of both the team a 2-year grace period to see how it goes. And then it also gives Jalen that flexibility if he can get out of there if it doesn't work. So, I mean, and he can dip if he's not feeling it. But I think it's great for both. And now they have this kind of 2-year trial with this young kind of rising dynamic duo. And with pieces around him, the Reed Shepherds, the Freds, the Dylan Brooks, can they now translate this to wins? Can they now take that next step forward, that leap forward, and actually come into a playoff team in this Western Conference? We'll see. But this is a great start for them, locking up these 2 stars because they're both talented as shit.
By the way, this might be the first time. It's 3 Jalens yesterday doing extensions. So we'll get to the second Jalen next. Jalen Johnson, Lou. He got a 5-year 150. And you like this one. So, okay, here we go. How you feeling?
I love it. I love it. That was my young fella in Atlanta. We spent a lot of time together. He was hungry to prove himself. 3 years ago, Jalen had the idea that he felt like Nate McMillan didn't even know his name. He was like, "Oh, gee, I don't even think Coach knows my name." Like, he just felt underappreciated. And 3 years later, he had an opportunity to play. He had an opportunity to go out and prove himself. And he's been able to turn that into a $150 million extension that shows the confidence that the Atlanta Hawks have in him and his ability. So super proud as somebody that shared the court in the locker room with Jalen and knowing what he was trying to accomplish and wanting to be recognized for his talent. So to get that money, I couldn't be more happy. So I'm super proud as an OG. Shout out to Jalen. Shout out to Atlanta Hawks. I hope it works out.
May all of our names never be known if this is what happens a few years down the road. I'll take it. There's the third Jalen, Chandler, is SUGGS. And this is a 5-year 150.5. I've heard a few people sort of raise an eyebrow at this one and think that seems a little high. Do you think so?
It's a lot of money for what he does, but they need what he does on that roster. They've already made their decision that Franz Wagner and Paolo are their guys going forward. They're their stars. They're who the offense is going to go through. Jalen Suggs is kind of this guy who's this rugged, tough, does all the little things. Now, at $150 million, a lot of people it's going to raise eyebrows. They're going to think it's too much. They think it's a lot of money, but he does have value. He guards the other team's best guard wing every single night. He's a great dude. So, listen, I think he really improved his outside shooting last year. He was way more efficient from the 3 last year. So I think he showed signs of progress. And this is a market where you're not going to get many guys in free agency, let's be honest. So you're going to either develop through the draft or through the G League, through whatever. So I think this is a good signing to lock him up. Now you have this core with Suggs, with Wagner, with Banchero going forward. They have a great coach in Jamal Mosley. So I like this deal. We'll see if it's too high, but either way, I'm stoked for the kid because he worked extremely, extremely hard to get here, and now he got 150 guaranteed. That's awesome. I'm not one to hate on someone's money. I know how that feels. I ain't going to do it, so I'm happy for him.
Smart move, Chandler. We're going to take a quick break. It is opening day. It's finally here. And we figured, you know what, with the Knicks playing and watching a banner get raised, why not super fan and comedian Sam Morril will join the show next.
Run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it.
But there, yes, here he is. Knicks superfan, and his day job is comedian. Sam Morril joins the show. Okay, we got to start with last season because you were on the show last season and you were pretty comfortable and confident in saying, you know what, this Knicks team could just run it back. Good title. And they ended up making huge moves in the offseason. So your reaction right away to what they did?
Well, I have a ton of Nova Knicks gear with Dante's face on it, so I guess I can't wear it to the Garden this year. I don't know. That's my first reaction. I love Dante and Julius, so that it the initial hurt as a fan. You're like, man, Julius, he rebuilt the Knicks. He took a chance on us when when we whiffed on KD and Kyrie. So I have a lot of love for Randle and Dante is like, I can't think of a more fun 1-year Knick. So I love Dante, but I mean, Cat he fits, he does fit, and Leon has been cooking. So it hurt to lose quickly in RJ too, but OG has been incredible. So I think you just got to trust in Leon.
Yeah, listen, for whatever reason, Cat was never really loved like Anthony Edwards was in Minnesota. As a diehard Knicks fan, do you think you guys will embrace him, his personality? Obviously, his game, I feel like, is going to translate perfectly, but are you going to embrace Karl Anthony Towns this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think he always seemed like kind of a fun dude. I remember he was rocking those Rick and Morty kicks, and I was like, oh, he's like a fun character. I don't know. He's a great player. We will embrace you if you embrace New York. Like, you saw the first thing they wrote to Cat, right? It was like, don't be a bitch. Was that what they said about Cat? Don't be a bitch. If he embraces New York, we embrace him. I mean, it's that simple. I almost stopped myself. Can I say that on FanDuel? I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, you can.
Don't, Chandler. Damn it, Chandler.
Yeah.
No. No. Chandler.
Let her rip, Sam.
I think if he embraces New York, we embrace right back. We love you if you like the city. And it seemed like he wanted to stay in Minnesota. It's a weird trade because it is two really good teams. So it's weird when they just shuffle it around, but I do think it might be good for both teams.
It's interesting to me because Cat always had that reputation of being quote unquote soft, but he was also younger, and he seems to have sort of matured a bit. And I just hope that he doesn't have a little bit of a bad run and then hears it and then just sort of goes from there, because that's my only concern, is that he kind of has a downward spiral if it's too many bad days in a row. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
That would be being a bitch, and that's what we're saying. That's in the right.
And that's what I don't want.
Yeah,
okay,
don't do that.
Don't be a bitch. That's easy.
The way I look at it is, I loved Randle, but also you have to look at what he did for us in the playoffs. And the first year against the Hawks, he kind of fell apart. The year against the Heat, he was hurt. This year he was hurt. So,
yeah,
I remember, Lou. Damn it. That was a painful one to be at, that series. Oh, but hey, this is, I feel good about this year.
Yeah, Sam,
you seem a little nervous.
You mentioned Julius Randle, though. I just wanted to ask you, like, what was it that why wasn't he a fan favorite at most of the time or sometimes in New York? Was it on the court? Was it off the court? What was his deal there? Because him leaving, honestly, I feel like he kind of wanted to leave.
Oh, I mean, it was a tough relationship. I think the folding the playoffs is, I think, where the fans turned on him. And I thought he got a bad rap. I don't think it was quite as fair, like when they were ripping apart his, like, whatever that paper thing outside the garden
posters.
Yeah. I didn't like that. That's ugly. I don't like that stuff. But I was also at a game once, and I'm not going to say the comic's name, but I was near her, and she was like, "Man, I hate Randle. He's like my least favorite." And I'm like, "Dude, shut the hell up. His son is like 2 seats that way. Stop it." So I liked him for just taking a chance in the city. And I say what you want, like maybe he didn't make the right play down the stretch sometimes, but he's 25-10, and you can't call that guy soft. So I think New York does love that. I think where he lost us was, not myself included, but he didn't deliver in the playoffs. That's where you got to level up in the playoffs in the big city. And I think Brunson does that. So that's where he lost us, probably.
Oh, we'll get to Brunson. We will definitely get there. First is Dad, though, because the return of Dante in the preseason, everyone was super stoked for it. And then there was the smack talk that was going back and forth. At first, I actually thought it was a joke at first, and then I realized, no, he's actually pissed, and he was pissed with Rick Brunson, the father of his best friend. So what did you make of all that?
Well, look at Jalen Brunson. Clearly, he was not raised by a crazy healthy guy. Like, you don't make a warrior like that from a dad who's just like normal. That's a dude who's probably tortured his kid. Brunson goes hard, and it sucked to see, but also here's the way I look at Rick Brunson. We don't have Jalen without him. I don't think we do. So you have to take the good with the bad.
Literally.
And Yeah, I mean, on multiple levels, right? Maybe Jalen's not an NBA player. If Jalen Brunson had my dad, he's just not a basketball player.
That's fair.
You need to have a psycho father. Yeah, I mean, he made him into what he is, and he got him to the Knicks, clearly.
You know what's interesting though, and Lou, like I when this happened, I was thinking about like that annoying ass AAU dad though, that would always like just say the wrong shit, stick up for his son even though he was wrong. So like that's kind of the dynamic that I felt here, where it's like, dude, you're only a coach because your son's really good at basketball and Knicks want him. So I feel like that is where the beef came from.
Listen, I play with Rick Brunson. He's not all the way there sometimes. He can be a little crazy. Sam, I want to ask you, before Cat, the Knicks traded for MIKAL Bridges, reuniting him with his former teammates, his former Villanova teammates, and Jalen Brunson and the since departed Dante. Are you upset that the Nova boys didn't get their opportunity to shine?
Of course, yeah. I had a Fantastic Four shirt with all their faces on it. I don't know who was Invisible Woman. I think they went with like 2 Mr. Fantastics, but yeah, I was fired up to wear that shirt at the Garden. I love the idea of it. Yeah, I think every fan. I was at a 9/11 like benefit thing, and I ran into Jalen Brunson for a second, and he saw I was wearing a Nova Knicks shirt, and he was like, "I love that shirt." So clearly he wanted it. Like in theory, we all wanted it in New York, but as I said, you got to trust in Leon. He hasn't steered us wrong one way. Even these draft picks look phenomenal, like Dadier and Kolek. I trust in Leon for sure.
I think we all wanted it, at least just for one season, because it was such a fun sort of movie script story. But alas, but you did get MIKAL Bridges, and a lot has been made of his new shooting form. And as a Knicks fan, like, is there concern? Are we worried? Do we think this will level out?
I think he'll figure it out, because he's a great shooter throughout his career. But like, when you see, why are you changing it the year it's all coming together? Guess what? When I get a Netflix special, I'm not like, time to switch up my delivery. Let me try a new character. You go with the delivery. The guy, I'm not doing like a British accent. I'm like, this will crack him up. No, you do your voice. So when I see that extra hitch, I'm like, what are you doing? His jump shot in Phoenix, he was like 41% from 3. Why are you changing it? Who cares if it looks weird? Sean Marion had a weird looking shot. It went in. So do the shot that works.
I agree, but it doesn't look great too, is the only thing that's concerning about me, but maybe he'll start knocking him down. Jalen Brunson, he won the city over within 1 year like I've never seen before. Now the question is, can he be the #1 guy on a championship team? He's got a great supporting cast, so I think that's obviously going to help him with the guys they added, but can he be the #1 option on a championship team?
Absolutely he can. Chauncey Billups is a finals MVP. Tony Parker is a finals MVP. Why can't Jalen Brunson be a finals MVP? I think when you build around the team properly, like that's the thing about Carmelo. I don't think he ever really had the right team around him. And Jalen really does. I mean, these guys, that's the thing also, losing Dante in that trash talk they were having with, like, this is what happens when they let you run the team, whatever. Well, clearly they were building around Jalen from the get-go, because we haven't had a guy like him in I don't know how long. And I don't mean to throw shade on any other Knick throughout the last 25 years, but Jalen is a total package. He has got the talent. He's got the killer instinct. He says all the right things. So I think when you have a guy like that who's a leader, yeah, I mean, putting OG and Bridges, 2 crazy good wings, and Cat, who's, as good as Randle was, he's kind of a ball stopper. Cat can do everything. He can shoot. He could take it to the rack. It really is just, I think, a matter of time before we figure it out, and maybe add one more piece on the bench. Losing Shamet sucked, because that guy was looking great in preseason, but we'll see who we add. I wouldn't mind what's his name, Lonnie Walker. I like that kid. I think he's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Lonnie's still out there. Well, let's play
out there.
You talked about Jalen Brunson. The last 25 years. This Knicks team, they're the best team in your opinion since when? What team?
99. When we lost to Michelle Spurs. I think
I remember that. That was fun.
Yeah, not fun. But I think, yeah, I thought 2012-13 with Melo, that 54-win team was tough. I think there's a better team. Amari wasn't all the way healthy on that team. Sure, we had Tyson Chandler and Melo, terrific team, but I think losing Chauncey Billups on that team really hurt us because even though he was older, he was like a steady hand. Kid was like 40 and coming off like his third DUI. So I don't know if that was like prime Kid. I love Jay Kidd, but like, you know, he was amazing that first half of the year and then it's like kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. I think this is our best team since the Sprewell, Houston, LJ, Marcus Camby Knicks.
All right, so this next question I always find funny because it seems so extreme, but we're sports fans, so we love our teams. We expect, want, hope for championships every single season. If they don't win everything, is it a failure?
No, this team has a nice like few-year window. I think that's why you do these moves. That's why they'll hopefully figure out a way to re-sign Bridges, who it seems like once he gets a taste of the Garden too, he's going to be like this. This guy's used to playing in Barclays for like 11 fake fans. You know, those Brooklyn fans aren't real. Maybe there's like a couple from Jersey who came over. If you lived in Jersey and then moved to Brooklyn, but it's like a lot of hipsters who don't. The fact that Garden wasn't rocking with KD and Kyrie should tell you everything. Not the Barclays, not the Garden. The fact that Barclays wasn't rocking with those guys. Come on. So once Bridges feels the Garden, he's going to want to stay. I think OG is like my issue right now is like, can we stay healthy? Because I do think Mitch is a part of the equation. Can he find a way to stay on the court? Because when we play Philly, who got better too, we need Mitchell Robinson on Embiid. We need a guy to wear down Embiid, who like, by the way, talking about like, he won't play back-to-backs. I love hearing old heads just shit on him. Just be like, dude, you don't play back. It's your job. It's like, if I work at CVS, I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to work Tuesday and Wednesdays. And they're just like, yeah, you have to. That's when you work, you know?
Job.
So it's a job. So I love hearing like guys like Garnett just like trash him. It brings my Knicks heart joy to hear, you know, guys like that who are just like tough players trash Embiid because I hate Philly.
I agree with you, by the way. I think this Knicks team they have a little bit of a longer runway because they're all young. They're all going into their prime. So I don't think it's a bust at all if they don't win a championship. But where would that rank in the city if they did? Bigger than a Giants Super Bowl? Bigger than the Yankees beating the Dodgers this year in the World Series? Where does a Knicks chip rank?
The Yankees have, what, 27? At this
they
point,
got so many. Who cares?
We don't
They
even
were a
need
long
parade.
time ago.
And the Giants aren't gonna win a Super Bowl. So I think your only shot would be the Knicks.
God. Daniel Jones, I was so not a fan. It's just so painful to watch. It's like, you know, he was at the Comedy Cellar one night and my friend was like, do you want to meet him? And I was like, no. Which I can't imagine saying about any other Giants quarter. I loved Eli so much. No, I don't. This Giants team sucks. But the first Patriots Giants Super Bowl is pretty high up there because we beat an undefeated Patriots team, so that's up there. But I still somehow think the Giants had won in like the early '90s. So the Knicks, it's been over 50. Crazy to say over 50 years. Like there are people who are 50 who are like, I've never lived through a Knicks championship. So I think that might be one, just because it's such a dude. This is a basketball city. Think about what people pay for rent to live in this city. You can't walk 3 blocks without seeing a court. So that's real estate in New York. We care about basketball. That's a part of growing up here. So I think that's one. And I think you see how excited we get. I mean, that Randle 4-seed season where the Hawks whooped our butt in the COVID year, that says everything because we were on fire from just like nothing. It's just like someone who hasn't had sex in like forever and a woman touches your leg and you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I don't know. We're pretty hungry for a Knicks championship.
Speaking of championships, Sam, the Larry O'Brien trophy could have went anywhere in this great country, but it went to Boston.
Yeah.
How upset to see that happen.
I was upset. I mean, look, it's tough. I met Jaylen Brown. I did a a show for Fashion Week for Kids Super at the Apollo, and I met Jaylen Brown after, and I wanted to hate him. Of course I wanted to hate him. But I never hated Jaylen Brown. I always respected like Holiday and Brown. Those guys, Tatum kind of bores me. I think he's a boring superstar. But White is another guy. Like, how do you not like these guys? They're great players and they play the right way. So although I hate the team of the Celtics, I can't hate the players individually. Porzingis was a Knick. So I meet Jaylen Brown after this show, and I didn't have a great set. It's like a Fashion Week crowd. They're kind of whatever. They're a little like woke and kind of like, don't joke about this, don't joke about that. And I probably could have dialed it back a little, but once you start bombing, it's kind of funny to take it to another level. So I got off and I'm just like, there's Jaylen Brown, whatever, Celtics suck. And he walked over and he was like, that was hilarious. And I was like, this guy's pretty cool. Like, that's all it takes with your fragile ego. Like, oh man, I suck. So Jaylen Brown I chatted with him for a while, and he was really a cool guy. And he was cracking up at how much I hated the Celtics. So I remember he asked me like, who's your least favorite of all time? And I was like, probably Pierce. Just because he bugged me, and he always cooked us. And he was like, yeah, I can see that. And he's like, he was rubbing it in. He's like, you coming to ring night to watch us, get our rings? I was like, nah, I'm not going to Boston to watch you get that. But I said, I can't wait for the Knicks to spoil it. He goes, we're going to make you watch. He was talking a lot of trash to me. And I was like, man, I like how competitive this guy is. And it's like, you couldn't have put him on Team USA. You had to give this team more ammo. This guy gets the finals MVP and somehow he's going to the offseason angry. I hate that shit. And Jason Tatum, same thing. He's on the team, but he's like he's riding the bench. His mom is starting
on
crap.
Team USA.
Humiliated.
Oh, he's got his mom talking trash. I was like, shut up. He's on Team USA. Tell his mom to stop starting shit over here, But yeah, it's so annoying. This team won the championship, and they're coming in feeling disrespected. I don't know how that happened, but here we are. They're obviously the team to beat. It's weird to me that everyone talks about the West because, sure, you got the Thunder and the Wolves, and the Nuggets are always good. But, like, I think the Celtics are clearly the team to beat, but I think the Knicks are built to beat them.
Can I ask you one quick question? I know it's so brand new, and you must have a favorite Knick from all of the years, but has Jalen Brunson sort of leapfrogged a bunch of your former favorite Knicks?
Look, it's tough because I love the 90s Knicks. Something about pro athletes when you're a kid is just like, you're a kid. It sticks with you longer. You idealize your heroes. So, that 90s Knicks team is tough to eclipse for me. I love Starks so much. I love Ewing and Mace and Oak. Those guys were just Spree. All those guys are awesome. But yeah, Brunson is kind of everything. I've said this like to death, but he's everything you want in a leader. He has those like Jeter qualities, except he's a little more goofy than Jeter. So, Jeter was a perfect leader, but like a little boring in interviews, a little corny, and that's fine. He was perfect for the Yankees. So, but I do feel like Jalen, I see clips of him and he's just kind of being, he's got a podcast. It's hilarious that I never thought I would want the Knicks captain to have a podcast, but it seems like it's a good outlet for him. So, usually you don't want that, but he's like, for Draymond, it seems like it's not good. But you want to be in the right part of your career to have a podcast. Yeah. And it works for him. Fair.
Let me ask you before we go, you just released all the dates for your upcoming tour. Where do people go for all that?
Oh, it's just on my website. I'm doing a bus tour for the whole run this time. I'm a psycho. So 45 cities from like February to May, and all on a tour bus. So see me awesome. see me shooting bricks at your local YMCA during the day and doing comedy by night.
Sounds perfect. All right. Good luck tonight. Maybe you guys will upset them during the banner. Maybe they'll be too distracted. Everyone will be watching. Sam, appreciate it.
Can't wait for the game. Thanks for having me, guys. Love the show.
Appreciate it. Man.
Thanks. Prop party next.
Run it up, run it back, yeah. Run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back.
Our first prop party of the year. I'm sure we'll have a perfect score at the end of it all. Chandler, what do you got?
I love Jason Tatum over 25.5 points. New season, he's going to prove night one, he's the best player on this team. He's going to lead them to a victory. Also, Celtics money line. There ain't no way they're losing the ring ceremony.
We need the record on people with banner raisings and how their record is. Glue?
Yeah, I'm just playing yin and yang. I'll take Brown over in points. You know, if it ain't going to be Jason Tatum, it's definitely going to be Jaylen Brown. So I'm going to take that Celtics money line. They're going to come out hungry. They're going to come out super enthusiastic, being that their banner is going up. I got them for the win tonight.
Well, now I wish I'd taken the Knicks money line just because there's a good possibility. I did Cat under on the 11.5 boards, and Derek White will have at least 3 threes, which I think is a good one. That'll make us money, y'all.
And this is the first. I know it's early. It's the first game, but Celtics prove a point tonight. You're the best team in the league.
Maybe. Guys, see you tonight. See y'all tomorrow. Enjoy the evening.